All right, guys, welcome back. Thanks for joining in. Today, I want to talk a little bit about the pentatonic scales. It's something that I've been recently sort of geeking out a little bit, and I should say inspired by. And I'm going to put some links in the description too. You're probably following some of these guys, but recently, a guy named Rich Brown. If you haven't checked out the Brownstone, super cool. I love his approach. I love his vibe and everything. He's a great player. And there's other guys whose names are slip me right now, but I'll put their links talking about pentatonics. And the interesting about pentatonic was one of the first things I learned when I was playing guitar. I think partly it's that, giving a kid a minor pentatonic scale, he starts to feel like, ooh, because I know for myself, I feel like, oh, wow, this sounds like cool music. Sounds like stuff I listen to. You can hear the blues and the rock when you play in a minor pentatonic or even a major pentatonic. You kind of hear those, especially as a bass player, you start hearing like those Beatles bass lines and common bass lines and themes, so it resonates with you. But I do think it's a good idea. It's important, I should say. It's essential, I should say, I think, to learn your major scales and your fundamentals of the major scales. And so you're understanding what the minor and the major pentatonics are being derived from. There's a lot of versatility with pentatonics, and I'm just starting to dig into this now, which is kind of funny. But some of these guys I've been watching have opened my eyes to things versus just laying over a minor pentatonic over a minor chord, or minor pentatonic lays over pretty well over a dominant 7 chord. And then, of course, the major pentatonic, that's relative to it. So if we're talking about A minor pentatonic, we're talking about C major pentatonic. Now, again, if you're not there yet with your theory, we'll get there, and let me know. We can, we'll talk about how we get those relative minor and all that stuff. But again, this is why I think it's important to learn your neck, learn your basic major scale, and understand the intervals in the major scale. And you'll be able to fuse them together and see what's going on. And we'll talk about this. But what's interesting about pentatonic, I'm calling it a pentatonic mindset. And this has been really fun for me. I've been finding these backing tracks and kind of soloing along or building bass lines along, and trying to think more about pentatonic than even the chords per se. Like if there's a chord progression or something, like if it's A major 7, E minor 7, D minor 7, C 7, C major 7, and how A minor pentatonic works great over that, because it's also C major pentatonic. But so that might be a little heady for some of you guys, especially if you're beginning. And I remember when I was learning this stuff, it's like, well, where do I use it? How do I know where to use this? You're going to get there. Don't worry. One thing at a time, right? But what I thought today is we just talk a little bit about it's just some ways to get out of, I call it getting out of the box or getting out of the line. Like sometimes what will happen is we'll get stuck in just, right? There's our minor pentatonic scale. I think for beginners, it's really important that you start, first of all, it might just be an exercise for you to, right, get your fingers in the right place, get that good shape with your hand, all the things that, you have to deal with as a beginner when you're learning whatever it is, scores, chords, scales. I just put scales and chords together. You know what I'm talking about. But once you're, getting these sounds down, your tonality is good, your intonation's good, then it's a good idea to recite in your head and really internalize what are the intervals. What are we playing when we play a minor pentatonic? We're playing the root, we're playing the minor third, we're playing the fourth, the fifth, the flat 7, and then the root. Now, where's that coming from? Well, again, it goes back to understanding major scales, minor scales. We're deriving those from a major scale or a minor scale in this case, right? So we're deriving, if we played a pure minor scale, it would be A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. Okay, 7 notes up to the octave. And so we're pulling out of those 7 notes, we're skipping the second and going to the third, playing the fourth, the fifth. We're not playing the sixth, but we're playing the seventh, right? So we're taking 5 out of 7, right? Or 8 if you want to count the octave. So that's an important thing, is to just understand that, because that's going to help you expand when you start playing in different positions on the neck. Then it's also a good idea to know the notes. A, C, then we got D, E, then we're playing G to A again, right? On and on and on. Now, what I'm going to do for the sake of this video, I'm going to try anyways, is to stay within two positions, we might call them, right? And what's interesting is that these two positions coming from the E string are going to be our minor pentatonic and our major pentatonic basic shapes, right? That, at least the way I learned it, the way I think a lot of people learn it. So our A minor pentatonic is the same as our C major pentatonic in terms of the notes. So what do we have in terms of thinking about it in C major? Well, we have the root of C, the second degree, the major third, right? And then we go up to the fifth. So we take the fourth out. Then we go up to the sixth. We don't play any seven. We just go right back to the octave. 4, 5, right? Nonetheless, if you just kind of play with these shapes, you're now getting a good, decent amount of the fretboard working, right? Right? That's an important thing to do. So I would recommend that if this is still kind of brand new to you, try to get these two shapes working together. Now, the next part of this, though, is where I think, something I'm trying to really ingrain in my own approach and practice time, but is getting away from just pure linear approaches, whatever scale we're playing for that matter. And in this case, what I'm going to do is start talking about groupings. You can think about this a whole bunch of different ways, and so again, check out these other people, because they probably give you something that's going to go boom and light bulb goes off for you. But I'm thinking about these in terms of groupings of notes, and so that I can get out of, kind of get a little bit more music in my scale, if you will, and start to give me some ideas and stuff. And so what I'm doing is starting with just groupings of 3. Okay, because, so for instance, with the A, we're staying with the A minor, groupings of 3 notes within the scale. So I go 1, 2, 3, right? I go from the root, 3rd, 4th. Now I'm going to go from the 3rd to 4th to 5th, and then 4th to 5th to 7th, and then 5, 7, then back up to the octave. Okay, if I just stay in the 1 octave for now. I mean, it already kind of sounds a little bit more like a musical line, perhaps, right? So these are groupings of 3. Now, if I want to keep going, now I want to go back down. So I'm playing the full shape all the way to the G string, which takes me up to the 4th of that, up to the D, right? Now going back down, right? Great little exercise. Just kind of mess with that, right? It already starts to get a little bit more fun. You start to hear the chords, hear some melodies in there, some possibilities. Now, the thing is that if I want to stretch out into the next position, I have to start thinking about that almost ahead of time. And again, there's no right or wrong. It's just going to be what feels better to you and what works smoothest, right? But let's say I want to go up to this note here. So I want to play up to that higher E, right? And I want to group. So I got to look at this a few different ways, right? I got to figure out where and when do I want to slide. So I might take this as sort of like a real, a process of elimination approach, and maybe I don't slide till I get all the way to the G string here. So for instance, groupings in 3. Now I could go, not that hard, not that big of a deal, right? Same thing with going down. I got to figure out where and when I want to slide. So in that case, I went all the way up to the highest note on the G string and then slid my I was playing with my third finger. Okay, fine, that works. But maybe I want to slide earlier. Except without biffing it like I just did, right? But there's the practice for me now, so. Yeah, okay. Or, right, now what do I do from here? Feels a little awkward, right? Maybe I need to practice it more. Maybe I can find it, smooth it out a little bit. But this is your process, right? Or maybe, so I slid early. I slid on the A string, right? I slid up to the second position. So I hope this makes sense. So this is something that, I mean, this could be a lifetime, right? But finding where it's going to give you the best sound and what gives you the most versatility is really your goal here with this. And I should back up. I mean, it's probably a good idea for you to practice. See, I slid up on the A string, slid down on the A string. Or I can slide up on the E string, right? Or I could slide up on the D string. Etc. So I want to get that facility of being able to slide in between the two positions, not just have to come to the beginning point each time. Then do my breaking up into groups. But you can see where I'm going with this. You can start to do groups of 4. Right? See, I stayed on the second position pretty much all the way to the end. So this is, again, you know, meditation. This is like your moment of Zen, just finding 1 or 2 of these to practice and get the feel of it, and then use your groupings, right? And then this will start to give you ideas when you're just kind of. So anyways, guys, we'll get more into these videos. We'll get more into these ideas, more practice ideas, more melodic ideas, and then also where you can start playing with these. But this is just something, like I said, I've been geeking out with. Also, I'll put some links in there. Found a great resource for backing tracks where you can kind of practice. You know, they'll give you the chords and everything, and you can practice these ideas. So anyways, guys, thanks for stopping by, and we'll see you in the next video.